Hello and welcome back to this edition of Daily Actives brought to you by Bootleg Macro. I'm Dustin. We are looking at NIO once again. If you've watched any of my previous videos, I do want to reiterate that I do not understand why anyone would be long. NIO looks terrible. It absolutely looks horrible. And I respect those people who are long-term holders and believe in the vision. What I see right now in the next 3 to 6 months is nothing but more pain unless you're short. Now, if we look at today, we are down 2.3%. Over the 5-day, we're down 8.43%. Over the 15-day, we're down 19.6%. And over the 1 month, we're down 14%. If you've been holding for even longer, 3 months, 6 months, or a year, you're down over 40%, which is has got to be one of the most difficult feelings in the world if you're looking at your capital just being eviscerated. We look at the trend on just the right here. What we can see is that the top of the range is getting lower. The bottom of the range is getting lower. We can see that we are bearish and bearish. Let's look at the raw data just to take a little bit more close up. We can see that when we look at the price here, if you've watched my previous videos, anytime you see the blue lettering with the white background, that means that we are 3 standard deviations below the mean. And when you see the blue lettering or the blue background with the black lettering, that means it's only 2 standard deviations below. So it is not good to see that the price continues to hit the bottom of its range and fall lower. You can see here it's below its 5-day, below its 23-day. Volume, this is the major concern I would say, is that the volume is accelerating. We've had some very large days of volume in the past. We saw some volume spikes on the 3rd and the 4th of March. And shocker, that's when the stock was hitting new lows. You had one day where it was down 7.78% or 7.9% that specific day. Over the just for today on the 27th of March, over the past 5 days, this thing is down 8.43%. Wow, that is so incredibly bad, especially if you're long. If you're short, you're loving this. You absolutely love to watch the implosion of this, but as someone who just analyzes the data the way that I look at it in a model, I don't see anything good here. If we're looking at the signals, we can see in the short term, intermediate term, and longer term, we just now have gotten confirming go short signals again as of today. If we look at the sentiment, we can see we're short term, intermediate term, and longer term bearish across the board and getting stronger most likely. The thing that most concerns me, and I'll point this out in the future, is going to be these lower lows and these lower highs. But with a bearish trend, I would be so far away from this thing unless I was short already, and I would be terrified of the face ripping me off short, covering rallies, very similar to what you probably saw in Carvana. We can see here on the ultra fast trend indicator, the red is now below the 50 and is pushing beyond the 20-day, 15-day, 30-day. It doesn't matter. The slow moving average is being breached by the bullet or by the bearishness. We go ahead and look at the trading signals. We can see we have multiple of the bear Q3. We have 2 coming tomorrow. We've had 5 most recently on the 20th of March. Looks like we've got a big bear, a small bear, a swift bear, and a monthly bear trigger. Nothing good to see here unless you are short. Now, if we look at the overall weekly trend, because I think this is probably very helpful for you to understand that this is not indicative of just 1 quarter, 1 month, or even 1 year for NIO. This is the trend. The trend has been down ever since 2020. I'm not saying it can't go higher, but I really don't believe that there's an opportunity for this to move up anytime soon. We can look at the daily trend. This is just since July of 2023. I mean, wow. We've lost so much value in such a short period of time. The only thing I can hope and pray is that you're short. If we're looking at the daily sentiment, it looks like we're potentially starting to roll over again on the daily sentiment. If we look at it on the weekly sentiment, it's been negative. It's only continuing to stay negative, so I would see no hope there. If we look at the volume, again, quite concerning that we're starting to see what looks like a little inflection in this volume average. The volume isn't necessarily breaking out like it did here in the past in September, and let's just see what it did in September. Okay, so September, when it was a huge drop that day, is when we saw our largest day of volume in the past 9 months. We can see that the volume, while it is not necessarily shooting up, it is steady. It is not this period back in here in 2023 when you were seeing very low volume, under 50 million shares. You were seeing an average well above 50 million shares traded per day, probably getting close to 60 million shares traded per day. You were seeing the volatility continue to break out. You were seeing the correlation go negative. I actually would expect that this correlation, instead of it being like this correlation is actually going to go positive. Actually, no. If the volatility continues to break out similar to this, you'd actually expect the correlation to go negative, and that's going to be very, very bad. Now, if we're looking at the trade range, anything redeeming? Not at all. We can see that the top of the range is up at 652. There's a chance maybe we could hit the top of it, only to be able to crash back down to what is the new bottom of the range here at 450. The only positive thing I see on the range currently is that 450 is not lower than 442. I do not want to see the lowest lows in the range while it being bearish, and you're seeing volume supporting that move. But the thing I did point out earlier when we were looking at the raw data was that I think that when you're looking at the trade range, it's one of the most important things. Now, if you've watched any of my previous videos, you've known that I've actually been building this model and using this model for a long time. I have my own concerns, though, because I'm using Google data. And Google, as we know, if you read the news, they can be quite strict with some things for some random reasons. We're not sure why, but I just want to make sure that I don't lose my model. my spreadsheet doesn't get deleted, I don't lose access. So what I'm doing is I'm actually making a lightweight app that I want to make available to you. Now, this is going to be very similar, and I think points out the most important parts of my model. It's going to show the price with the same style of colors. It's going to show the volume, the same style of colors, the sentiment, which is going to be based on the daily range, the rolling 20-day, which I think is very significant. And then if you look at where the range is, this is going to be giving you the top or the bottom and the top of the range, as well as the most important part, in my opinion, which is, are you seeing lower lows or higher lows, or are you seeing higher highs or lower highs? And that's important because you want to be really purposely aware of what the math and the underlying second derivatives are doing of these individual price moves. If you're interested in it, I've got a link in the comments below, or a link in the description below. What you can do is you can go ahead and sign up. It is a paid product. This is the Evening Equity Insights. The reason why it's paid is because I want to continue to improve it, and it takes money for me to continue to invest in building this tool. I am a one-person thing, and this is just something that I do for fun. But if you're interested in getting that list, which you'll end up getting every single night, you'll end up getting a list of 25 plus stocks. You're going to get that whole trade range right there and the sectors. You'll receive it each evening. It will get updated, and you will see the higher highs, the higher lows, the rolling 20s, the trend, the volume, the price, all that good stuff. But tell me what you think in the comments below. Are you long? Are you short? Do you like it? Do you love it? Is this even a good review? I'll talk to you soon.